Hello and good evening, free enterprise fans around the world. We are here for a Monday night community event race featuring Possum, Morpheus, Jay Brunner, Rex Banner, and Tybalt playing our new Pink Puff remix flags for this week. And I am joined in the booth here by Nth. Nth, how you doing?
Doing pretty well, thanks. Very excited to see these flags. It's a very interesting flag set tonight because it's got a lot of little tiny wrinkles in it that are kind of like it can be really friendly if everything rolls right, but it could also be very, very mean if it doesn't.
Yeah, definitely. So these four runners, all rather seasoned, I would say, might be familiar with Highway to the Threemas Zone table flags. And if anyone in the audience is familiar with those flags featured free characters and a lot of incentive to take a D machine grind. And we sort of have that as part of our kit here, including the fact that our runners are going to have to go to the moon because of the two static moon objectives. So that very well may be in play, but it is distinct 8. So who shows up is really going to determine what they do with these parties. But the loot's not very good, the shops aren't very good, and the characters are really going to determine what they could do with this seed. It should be really interesting and really fun.
Yeah, and another
But
thing that'll be familiar for anyone who watched any of Threemas Zone 2, especially the table flags, is the return of the warp glitch as well. So if they get underground, they do get basically double rewards for clearing Dwarf Castle. It does look like we have a Sid and Rydia start here, though.
So we get a magma key start, and we know that Demist is at the Beigen spot, so we don't have to hunt for Demist, but we're still hunting for 3 bosses, so you'll still see people go into Mist Cave and Waterfall, probably prioritizing places like Ordeals. However, we have this magma key start, so any routing considerations that you may normally think about kind of shift a little bit when you start with a magma key.
Yeah, I gotta think with that magma key start, that pretty much puts, opening anywhere near Fabul completely off the table because you might as well go underground, get the first part of the pan check going. I kind of expect that we'll see a few of our runners do that, maybe not necessarily all of them, but there's a lot of good incentive to go down there, including just going down and looting like the Feymarch chests and like that, because it's going to have way better loot than anything they're going to find in the overworld.
Yeah, definitely. And we see our runners splitting in 3 different directions. Our bottom 2 runners here, Rex and Tybalt, have headed immediately to Castle Eblin. The loot quality here on a weighted flag set means there's a good chance of actually finding something usable, especially for Sid. While Possum and Jay Brunner are prioritizing getting characters first. And actually the waterfalls, I like the waterfall play a lot because you get the character here, so we get a Rosa, and you get the loot quality of the Watery Pass. But yeah, it looks like our runners are prioritizing getting either characters or loot first, maybe on one loop around, and then going underground and seeing what's down there.
Yeah, we do see Jbrun going up for this Mount Ordeals check that, I mean, personally, I always forget exists even when free characters are on, and does find a Kane up there too. So we're already up to 5 out of the 8 characters that we know could be in the seed. And there's no guarantee that all 8 of them are there either, because the C maybe flag is on. That means that there's still a chance that, this might even just be the only 5 that we find. But at very least, we do know that there is a full party available for free right away if you want it.
Yeah, definitely. And with C maybe, the way that works, it just says that we have a distinct 8, so that guarantees 8 distinct characters could be in the seed, and C maybe says, forget the guaranteed part. It may be 8. It may be less. And yeah, that Ordeals, it is always the one I forget about. Also Hobbs, funny enough, is the character check I always forget about on free characters, because it's the one place that's not free, basically, right? So it I always in my routing, my looping, end up like skipping out on that. And here's our first dupe that I've seen, I believe, at the top right. That's Sid at Dapsian.
I believe there was also a duplicate Rydia available in Mysidia.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think
Chat,
that's all the free characters.
chat asking Canine Ordeals, what is this, the after years? I appreciate that reference.
He's just up there trying to see what would happen if he goes up there a bit early. Unfortunately, just sort of turning around and gonna stay down here for a while. It does look like Tybalt's looking like he might be the first runner to head underground here, as he's landed in Agart. And I kind of anticipate that if anyone's landing in Agart this early, they're probably committing to going underground already.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. It's kind of interesting watching the overworld kind of routing and looting. Of course, we'll only have this flag set for a week, basically, but this is the kind of flag set with free characters and whatnot that, like, my brain would really want to go into how do you optimize routing for this kind of thing. Oh, it was a Rydia and an Edward. I see. Those were the two available at Mysidia. Not the most optimal.
I did not catch what that character was on top of Mount Hobbs that Possum Morpheus just reset out of, but I do know that it was a K-Not-So fight that he reset out of, so no guaranteed objective up there. We're also seeing now the Mom Bomb behind the throne here in Dwarf Castles. Tybalt's down there checking, so still none of those bosses found yet, and whatever was on, a Cecil apparently. So Cecil not appealing to Possum here.
Yeah, a tracker Asuka letting us know it's Cecil. Cecil is really interesting because he's not very useful right now. We have to go to Ordeals. That may be a, like, keep that in the back of your mind and come back later sort of thing. Especially if a Holy Sword or 3 ends up in your hands, you never know.
Yeah, and it's certainly possible, although a lot more unlikely in this T Pro, S Pro setup that we have going on here. You know, that gear is not going to come easily, so I can definitely see just fading it, and if you get lucky, come back later.
Well, if there's always value in the banana stand, there's always value in Castle Upland trap chests. That's just how it works. It's not guaranteed to be a Holy Sword, but it's like, it's Schrodinger's Holy Sword. You don't know it's a Holy Sword until you check it. So I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of our runners here on stream ends up doing those trap chests knowing that there's a Cecil in the seed.
Yeah, and I gotta think too, you know, with the beta flags that we've been testing out with the tier 8 that basically contains only adamant armors and holy swords. So if the no adamant flag is on, like it is in this flag set, it's basically, you know, going to be a holy sword if it rolls T8, that maybe that Cecil might be a bit more appealing later on, but it's seems a lot harder to guarantee at this point.
So we see Tybalt now running into the Feymarch. He's going to grab his Feymarch freebie key item, probably peek the 2 bosses in the Feymarch as well. Also doing a little bit of looting. This is something I was going to come back to about looting. When you get a Magma Key start, all the overworld looting becomes less interesting to me because most of the underground is weighted a bit better. Or maybe you just grab all of it. So anyway, we're going to get a freebie check here. Looks like it's just a Bacchus wine. Just one special wine in its cooler.
I gotta be thinking you're really wanting to find a Baron key somewhere earlier with the start too, where you know Demist is back there, you know there's 2 more characters that could be useful to you. I mean, we haven't seen the worst character pool, but we've seen like a 4 out of 5 of like an ideal party sort of character pool at this point in time. So I gotta think that they're wanting to find a few more character checks at this point.
Yeah, if they're looking for anything or anyone, really, it's Tella, I think. Tella will change. Tella and the Darkness will change things dramatically. If we don't find a Tella, we already have a pretty good party, I think, between our premium healer in Rosa, our premium DPS and tank in Cecil, and a pretty good DPS in Kayn. And then kind of past that, you can really have any 2 other party members and be pretty happy. Like, I think from I think you're right from like a party perspective of like, what's the quality of the team I'm going to be going to Zoromus with? It's pretty good, but we got to get through the game. Also, shout out to that shop having just flame and flame. And I think a whip.
Well, at least they're consistent in what they sell there. It's not like these shops that are just trying to sell everything. They're like a little mom and pop shop that creates flame-based equipment and nothing else, and it is top quality. And it's like you go in there because you just appreciate the craftsmanship.
But can we talk about the item shops that only sell Odin? Just Odin. Because the number of times I see that is greater than like a small amount. Also high vanilla antlion.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna just sell one summon, I feel like you might want to maybe invest in like a Sur or Bahamut. You might get a little bit more business, but at the same time, again, they know what they're about. They've been handcrafting quality Odins for the past however many years. And one thing that Rybon just pointed out in chat too is that Rex has knocked Rydia down, and there is a pretty good reason to keep that Rydia on the floor with slingshotting. Again, this is like Seema Stone 3 could just go do a D Machine grind later. And also, Rydia is our only warp caster so far, so that's kind of a weird question here, is how long do you keep her down to try and keep those levels versus when you might want warp so you can get double value out of Dwarf Castle?
Yeah, there's pretty interesting tension there. Rydia is the premier agility anchor, and to explain that incredibly quickly, basically you want all the agility, the amount of how often characters and enemies act in this game are all banded around basically the center character in your party. And Rydia, just starting at level 1, all other party members start at like level 5 or level 10 or 20, 30, etc. She only has 4 agility, and basically her being at the slowest possible in the middle slot will sort of warp everyone else's agility around her, and that makes really fast spots a lot easier to handle. So she's the premier like agility anchor, but she's also the only warp caster, like you said. And Edward is also a pretty good anchor. He's not the best, but if we don't find a spoon, I'm not even sure that flag is on. Edward's not, unfortunately, not very useful for a lot, so he's also an interesting anchor in my mind here.
Yeah, the spoon flag is not
so
on
is
this
Sid.
one, yeah.
Yeah, spoon flag's not on, so Edward, unfortunately, not going to be able to do a whole lot this seed, except be a good anchor and maybe do some interesting, fun Eddie strats, which could come up.
It could. I feel like this seed with the 3 boss hunts and the 2 required things kind of pushes you away from some of the like low-level strats that Edward would be really good for. Like, you're not necessarily going to do the Edward strat on Zeromus if you're already having to fight at very least one of the 2 hard spots on the moon in those first 2 objective slots. So I think that kind of this flag is a little bit defined against Edward, and we are seeing this gauntlet here in Fabul on the is this even randomized part, which does mean that there should be a water hag at Leviathan as well.
Yeah, more wonderful, tasty vanilla. Water hag at Leviathan is great news. That is free. It's air quotes free, but with 4 party members and good agility anchoring, you go into that battle at battle speed 6, and you just kind of accept whoever gets punched in the face for like 2,000 damage, but you'll get through it.
Yeah, the only downside to that in this flag set is K-Summon is not on, so you do not get the reward that you would get. You don't get a key item reward from it, so it's kind of a question of, do I want to take this free Water Hag fight just for the equipment with this T-Pro and S-Pro flags on?
Oh yes, good point. It's just K-Main, K-Moon. It's still interesting to me if you go down there first, not first. If it's the first time you go down to the Feymarch, you know that the Fubul Gauntlet is out of the pool, and you wouldn't mind some experience particularly. I think it would be pretty decent. Of course, you can't really guarantee who's going to survive, but yeah, kind of unfortunate that that freebie is there, not somewhere else then, really.
We did see another dupe in Kaipo as well. I believe it was a duplicate Cecil there. So again, another character not being added to the pool here. We know there's only 2 more characters that could possibly exist in this seed, and we are kind of, I don't want to say running out of slots, because there's still a good 5 or 6 slots out there, but you got to be starting to think, once you have all of the knowledge that we have at this point, which eventually all of our runners will have, there's not a lot of choices, and you might be tempted to start settling with what you've already found.
Yeah, definitely. And again, see maybe. I mean, it's gonna skew towards being slightly less than distinct 8. So like if I've already seen 6 distinct characters, I'm already thinking I'm probably not going to see a 7th. It could happen, but I'll anticipate that I don't see a 7th. And kind of just to respond to a comment in chat for a moment, don't want to talk about it too much because that water hag's not going to be that relevant, but a water hag at a very high damage spot like that, if you go in at battle speed 6 and you have like 4 or 5 party members, you can basically suicide your party members. I don't know how else to put that. You attack it, water hag takes someone down, and you hope to get 2 more swings in, and you're pretty likely to do that unless water hag just like snipers every single party member that tries to attack him, which it could happen.
Yeah, and I do want to point out, yeah, exactly. This gauntlet is still going on. Absolutely right. 5-6 enemies per wave, and you don't even have like an Earth Axe for Sid alone would have made a huge difference there, but there's just no AoE available on that team yet.
And even with the Earth Hammer, there are a lot of flying enemies in that gauntlet that the Earth Hammer would miss. It using Quake when you use it as an item.
That Hourglass one hurts.
That, yeah. Yeah, that stings.
But still, that was a very interesting risk on Rex Banner's side. I kind of assumed that none of our runners would go to Fabul without going underground to at least prep the first part of the pan check. So it definitely was an interesting play to go there early, possibly thinking, you know, if I go here, there is a chance that no one else goes here. I get like a Darkness Crystal early, and this seed is basically mine from that point onwards. Because I feel like this is one of the only situations in which seeing a Darkness Crystal as one of your first key items is the absolute thing you do want to see.
Yeah, it could also be I got a magma key start, but I forgot and I went to Fabul anyways. I'm very guilty of that. I've done that so many times. And Tybalt interested in this cane at the Knauza boss at Hobbs. Rex getting his own cane on Mono Ordeals. I believe this is the first person going to Ordeals, so we'll get to see 3 new bosses here and the key item.
Yep, we've also found everyone's favorite Canadian Leviathan up here in Baron Inn, was the Sparkle guarding this Edward, and it's a door hidden behind it. This is not a very pleasant sequence of Baron Inn bosses.
Okay, Edward is actually very functional here, and if Jaybrun is worried about being able to kill this before the evil wall kills you. Okay, problem with evil wall. First of all, the spot punches really hard. Second of all, this the way the AI here works, it starts a chain to move the wall forward and then attacks. And yeah, it looks like Jaybrun takes a wipe. The way it does that, it will essentially it doesn't care about your agility anchoring. The start a chain part will take place first, and that's why whenever you find the wall, it just acts way more often than it really should. Any other boss would. But if he had been able to pick up Edward and Edward could hide with nobody else alive, the wall could punch itself dead in that spot. Highlighting kind of a use for Edward there, but Jaybrun says, no thanks, I will come back to that way, way later, perhaps never.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this D-Lunars fight is necessarily that much of an improvement at this point in time, if I'm being entirely honest. It's not necessarily a difficult one, but also... Oh wait, I guess we have Artemis Arrows for Rosa. That might take care of that pretty quickly.
Artemis Arrows, Elven Bow, they will do work, and the aim command. The one concern will be trying to spread the damage out on the 2 D-Lunars, because if only 1 D-Lunar is left, every time it takes damage, it will do a 10% AoE fire attack, and it will do it a lot. And Rosa being our only healer and the only reasonable DPS, okay, good, we see Rex attacking the back D-Lunar now, really wants to spread that damage out, just want to get back to Rosa, aim one more time, and that way the fire doesn't just completely destroy this party. It looks like Possum took that Water Hag, got a light sword for his trouble. That's not a bad Cecil weapon.
A light sword and 10 levels.
Yeah, there's that experience I was talking about. It looks like he was able to get it on his, looks like on his entire party.
He was managed to keep
Possum,
everyone up, which was really interesting to me. I didn't think that was going to be possible there.
Waterhag might have missed, or maybe you just get the 3 actions in. I unfortunately missed it with my focus on the D-Lunars, but somebody did mention that a cursed ring was found. If Possum found a cursed ring, getting experience on all his party members is kind of a no-brainer anymore. And that kind of question of, do I keep Rydia down or do I keep her leveled so I can warp, kind of doesn't become a question anymore with that cursed ring, which does take your agility down by -15.
I almost wonder if, with that curse ring available, and that light sword find down here in the Feymarch, if Possum might just decide, okay, now is definitely the time to go back for that Cecil.
Yeah, I think so. I think now is the time. You get that Cecil. Well, you go to you do ordeals first, and then you go get the Cecil. And yeah, really anyone on that team could be an anchor now. Sid particularly is a great anchor because he just has a great amount of health. And really isn't very fast. Even a Dwarf Axe could be pretty good for him for anchoring, which gives -5 agility.
I think I have seen a Dwarf Axe somewhere too, so I believe both of those are on the table at this point. So if, this goes late and you get way too many levels, you can still keep that Sid's agility basically as in the ground as you're willing to be comfortable with.
Oh yeah, -20 agility on him basically will keep him at 1 for like forever. Looks like Tybalt is about to get the bad news regarding this alt gauntlet at Fabul. Meanwhile, Rex and Jayburn are getting through their ordeals fights, and Possum is peeking the boss at Dwarf Castle 1, sees a mom bomb and says, you know what, I'm good. Pass. Hard pass. Thanks, I hate it. And immediately flies away.
That's interesting too, thinking about it, is that Possum now going to go down to the bottom of Sylph Cave, going to have the Sheila 1 check prepped up, and will have levels on his Rydia, so his Rydia will have access to some AoE damage as well. He's going to have a lot quicker of a time getting through that gauntlet if he goes to take it right after this.
Okay, hold the phone, hold everything. Did you see what Rex Banner just got from ordeals?
I did not. I looked away from it because I was looking at
happened to catch it. It's an Avenger.
Yeah, you definitely want Cecil in this seed, I think.
Even Kane at the moment, we see Rex putting that Avenger on him immediately. Now, I don't think if Rex... Actually, so there's a funny thing with Avenger. We call it the Avenger glitch. So the Avenger, when you put it on, it swings for 166 damage. When you put the Avenger on, it automatically berserks you. If you do not take an action on your character before being berserked by Avenger or the berserk spell, your weapon will kind of be glitched into the weapon you were wearing beforehand. So Avenger, which should probably be doing about 1,000 damage here, was only doing maybe 150. Now, it doesn't really matter because the dolls don't have any health, but kind of funny. The Avenger in general, though, really, really freaking good. For many of the other overworld checks and underground, you could just step into battle, gently put your controller down, and watch Kane destroy things.
Yeah, and it's gonna be big too. Like, how do you use that Avenger in this situation? If you're, say, Possum, you've done that water hag fight, you have the light sword already. Do you use that Avenger to Avenger glitch your Cecil? Do you keep it on your Kane for right now because you don't have any other real Kane weapons and you might as well have both of them swinging really hard, especially once Rosa gets access to Berserk herself? It's like, how do you use that right at this point in time with the power that these players have?
So I think the best way to use it with this team, I think Possum definitely wants that Cecil to help round out the team, getting rid of Edward, unfortunately, and either having Rydia or Sid as an anchor. And then you put the Avenger on Kane, and you let Cecil sit in back and be able to cover people, because when Cecil is berserked, he can't cover. And Cecil and Kane are going to be pretty equal as Avenger wielders at the moment. But probably the most important thing, and one important takeaway, y'all, that you're going to get from seeing an Avenger this early, pay attention to who's using that Avenger and what they do in battle, because I think the really, really good runners are going to end up at a place like Ogopogo Now at Ogopogo, you do need to heal, but otherwise, like from sort of an efficiency standpoint, it's best to just sit there and do nothing and let Avenger attack, because it's going to do leagues more damage than anyone else can do at the moment. So that was a really kind of important lesson for me to learn about getting better at this game, sort of how to leverage the strengths that you have, and Avenger is a major strength right now.
Definitely, and especially in a seed like this too, where you're not. It's interesting because I gotta feel like at some point in time, this seed's gonna break into one very, very long chain. Because we have not seen any key items except for the Luca key. And with that warp glitch on, that Luca key is, I don't want to say a dead key item because there might be one of our boss hunts lurking down there, but it is kind of like you go down there just to check the boss and then leave. So
you are truly speaking evil into this world right now. It's very possible that there's a boss at Luca key that we need, and if it's there, I think it's one of the last places our runners go.
All I'm asking is for Baigonet Package, Magus Sisters at Sealed Cave, and Dr. Luggage at CPU, and that's all I really want.
All right, let's go. Actually, I'll say Dr. Luggage at Elements. Or Dr. Luggage at CPU, but gated behind something awful at Elements. That would truly be the worst. I appreciate it.
Basically, this is what we meant when we said early on there's a lot that could be bad about how this seed rolls if it just happens to be unlucky. Also, Demist mentioned in chat, Demist is the Baigon spot in Baron Castle. So we have eyes on Demist already. We're just waiting for that Baron key.
Yeah, now that Baron key could be behind a disgusting chain, and then Demist could be gating something important as well. Like all sorts of kind of awful potential here at the moment. Looks like Rex Banner's finally throwing the magma key down the well at the bottom left there, gonna go underground. Possum getting a sand ruby from Sheila 1. I believe we said that was a duplicate, right?
It is a duplicate Cecil, but that might actually be a bonus for Possum if he's planning on picking up a Cecil. If he goes to check that Sand Ruby character, it's going to be a lot quicker than going through a fight on Mount Hobbs, so he'll definitely end up taking that if that's the case, I would imagine.
Got it. Oh, and actually I think that was Kane on Hobbs. That's what I remembered seeing. I don't see us. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. No. Bottom right, Tybalt has a Cecil. So yeah, that would be just a lot faster.
I feel like there's a lot of things. I feel like there's a lot of things that have lined up in this seed with Possum's routing that have kind of made it so that he can have like the most absolute efficient route through the seed if he wants it, just through sheer like force of his initial things paying off. That's not to like discount the level of skill and routing there, but it has paid off incredibly well so far.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think Possum Morpheus is one of those runners that is really good at routing and understanding various different flag sets and how you want to route them. So seeing him kind of take a route where early game he basically checked for characters and then went underground, and you kind of want to do things in proximity, right? And I think he did that really well where he gave himself the best chance to be able to like take a water hag, for instance, and get levels because he had 5 party members. Because he picked up party members before going underground. It is things like that. That I agree definitely played out pretty well for him so far. But who knows? We're only 27 minutes in and nobody has an objective done. So there's a lot more of this race to happen.
I feel like we're kind of like 27 minutes in, and I don't want to say no one's gone anywhere because that feels a bit more disparaging than I mean it, but also we have not made any progress into the seed towards any of those objectives either, outside of just crossing items off a list of where it could be. So at this point in time, thinking of where progress is left, I don't think Rex Banner got through that. I think he got a Legend Sword for Baron Inn. So that really kind of, thinking about it, I think just leaves Keyless Tower at this point, because it was a Sand Ruby on top of Fabul there.
Yeah, so here's the interesting thing about K-Main, K-Moon only. And I want y'all to pay attention to K-Main, K-Moon without K-Summoned. may be important later. But what that does is potentially put more key items on the moon, basically, because they're not in the summon spots. So with only 2-3 key items, I mean, it's kind of possible that the top of tower just has darkness crystal, and they have to kill all the moon spots for their key items, or at least to like start their chains to be able to actually make progress on this seed. It could happen. So
Yeah.
pay attention to how that's going to play out.
I guess thinking about it, no one's gotten through Dwarf Castle either, and because of that, no one has warp glitch to check the sealed cave key item either. So that is 2 more possibilities. So there's 3 possibilities left, but they're all underground.
Chat asking, was that a spoiler? No comment.
We don't know any more about this seed than has been seen on stream, unfortunately. As much as sometimes I like wish that I could see the evils that are coming, unfortunately we don't. Also, while we have this little bit of a moment, please make sure to give our 4 runners tonight a follow if you want to catch some more very good action, as well as the rest of our restream team, both myself and Solaris, as well as Niabari for rolling this masterpiece of what I would refer to as weird vanilla, and Asuka for tracking as well. Without their hard work, none of this would be possible as well.
Yeah, definitely make sure to give those folks a follow. We love our community. We love the people in the, that race, and especially that help put on these restreams. We put on restreams like 2 to 5 times a week, depending on, or even more, depending on kind of the month and if tournaments going on or whatnot. So restream team, always appreciated. And if you've ever wanted to do the talking, or put on the seed and the show, or help do the tracking, we are always looking for more restream members. Doesn't matter if you're new, if you're a veteran. It doesn't even matter if you don't play that much. If you just kind of know enough to know where like key items are, basically, which isn't really too hard, I don't think. I mean, we're always looking for members. Come to our Discord. There's a place to kind of register, kind of put your name in the hat if you'd like to join us.
Yeah, I mean, I basically just kind of showed up one day and they let me do this, and it's been a lot of fun ever since. So definitely, if you're interested, give it a try. You'll definitely enjoy yourself, because this is always a lot of fun, especially when you're watching 4 very unique runners in terms of what they're doing in this seed. Because I feel like a lot of this time when you have these 4 racer restreams, there is a little bit of a tendency for at least 2 of them to kind of go down the same path. All 4 of these runners have been taking completely different paths through this seed, and at this point in time, we're just kind of waiting to see which one of those is going to pay off.
Yeah, they're fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, they're kind of getting funneled into the same checks, because they've all been dead ends. We have top of tower, but probably more importantly, we have Dwarf Castle still. So Dwarf Castle is a key item, and then it's the Luca Cave key item without having to go in there. I have to imagine that's where people are going to converge first. And yeah, that mom bomb is a little rude, but it does kind of punch hard. But especially with Cecil in the party, able to cover up party members, I mean, it's not insurmountable. Yeah, Restreamer pointing out that Luca being in logic is a pretty big deal. That means that the Luca key could be vanilla darkness, particularly, or a way to darkness.
Yeah, I gotta think that at this point in time, then, like Rex Banner taking this egg and that sort of thing, if you think about it that way, you probably want to make sure that your Rydia gets to warp and then do Dwarf Castle right away. So you can get that Dwarf Castle check and you can get that sealed cave check, because there's a 66% chance that this Dwarf Castle leads to darkness crystals through that at this point.
Yep, and Rydia gets warp really early, like silly early, like level 14 or something like that. I'm not sure if he had experience on her before that. It could also just be taking an egg to just get a spike in power, because experience from an egg is worth a lot more early game than it is later game, because the 33,000 experience is worth like a pile of levels. So you kind of do one egg, and then you get multipliers, you get health. Your casters get spells like, you know, Blink and Berserk and whatnot, and yeah. So it looked like he was interested in that one egg and is going to take on Dwarf Castle now, kind of just preparing his team at the moment, setting up equipment, setting up a good anchor. Dwarf Castle 1 is usually the more difficult spot. You want a fast anchor here because the doll spot is rather slow. The Golbez spot afterwards is fast. You would want to be slow anchored there, but it's usually the much easier encounter. So coming here with a fast anchor, putting Kane in the middle makes sense.
Yeah, and another thing I want to point out too is that Jabron has gone for the actual sealed cave, which I don't want to say that he maybe missed the warp glitch thing, because this could still be a part of his strategy. He might have, I don't remember if he's one of the people who checked Dwarf Castle. If he might have looked at Dwarf Castle, saw that Mom Bomb fight, and was like, okay, I might have to come down here to check the boss hunt later anyways. I might as well just go down and not have to deal with that Mom Bomb right now. So it's interesting to see, and there's our Baron key, so that's 2 more key items behind the sealed cave.
Okay, so that Baron key is probably very important. It's Demist, and the main Baron key item is this boss, one of our boss hunts. This is huge if it is, so we'll see in a moment. Jabron just kind of prepping his team before he takes this fight on. This is a very fast spot. You do want to be anchored well here. It doesn't punch very hard, but the magic is incredibly high. Magus Sisters here would be disgusting, by the way.
I feel like any of these options is not going to be particularly fun here. Even that Dr. Luggage fight is not very fun at this particular spot, if I'm remembering right, because I think this one is one of the ones that has a lot of health, so it's sort of like 3-way health split gets diluted by that. And it is a Wyvern instead, which is also up there on interesting, possibly fun things.
Oh, hi Wyvern. That's a problem. First of all, not required. Second of all, gonna have to go back and do this at battle speed 6 in order to not just get like completely destroyed by that Mega Nuke. Which I told you about high magic attack power there. That will always just do quad 9s at that spot particularly.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this is doable. You know, put yourself to battle speed 6, drop that cursed ring onto Sid, and just drop some Star Veils, and congratulations, you've got yourself a free Baron key that you can walk out. So this is not the worst thing in the world outside the time lost from just the reset and not already knowing it was Wyvern.
Right, but unfortunately, with the warp glitch on, if most other runners do the warp glitch, the time spent here at Luca Cave will be kind of for naught, unfortunately. In the meanwhile, we see Possum finally coming into Antlion. Our tracker had been asking earlier, did he fade Antlion? And it looked like with the Magna Key available, it was just kind of an easy fade, or something to put off to later. And now, with access to exit on Cecil, he'll be able to get out a lot faster. I like the routing there. And there's his Luca key. That tells him that Luca is in logic. I think he's going to beeline for Dwarf Castle now.
I think he's run out of overworld checks at this point, if I'm remembering right. So everyone's going to kind of be down there at this point, I gotta think.
It's that or Top of Tower, and Top of Tower versus Dwarf Castle looks a lot worse to me.
Do you want to take 2 checks and single dip one location, or do you want to double dip for 1 check?
Yeah.
So that does kind of lead to an interesting moment here where we're about to have like 3 different Mom Bomb fights going on at the same time. And so we've had these 4 runners taking completely different paths through the first 37 minutes of the seed. And as it turns out, they're pretty much all about equal to each other. And everyone's going to be about the same spot.
Yeah, and you could consider Jabron doing the Luca Cave as basically, it's not the same spot, but it's one of the same destinations, so... Yeah, Jabron at the top right there, though, able to get up 3 Star Veils, does lose his Kane, who had the most damage on his team by far. Very smartly puts on the Artemis arrows. needs to put out damage. Wyvern will eventually put up a wall and start bouncing nukes off of himself, which, even with the clamp spell power, okay, this is clever. When you cast a summon from Rydia against Wyvern, he will counter with Mega Nuke. That is a very clever use of Chocobo. And yeah, with that, able to take Wyvern down.
My main concern here is if Jabrun goes through this, finds that Baron key, you got to be thinking, if you got the Baron key, I need to chase this. Not only have I, got it, but I know it's 2 checks. If something good comes from Dwarf Castle, he's going to be a lot later to Dwarf Castle than everyone else.
Now, if Dwarf Castle has a dupe character and doesn't have a key item, then Jabrun is kind of in it with everyone else, so long as he doesn't go to Dwarf Castle. And Dwarf Castle, when you don't have the Warp Glitch available, and you're not that interested in a character, unless you really want to gamble on Tella, not very tempting anymore. So this is sort of a moment of truth now. Rex Banner is going to be the first runner to show us what the Dwarf Castle item is. It's a rat tail. That could be important.
Well, if there's a hook at the top of tower, if there's a hook in Baron, then that could be, mandatory for the Darkness Crystal at this point in time. So we won't really know for a while, but for right now, it's kind of like, well, you got nothing for that.
Yeah, the rat tail is kind of Schrodinger's value right now. Like, it both does and doesn't have value until you turn it in. So it's kind of one of those, it's like, thanks, I guess, kind of things. But with that Baron key from the Warp Glitch, Rex heading over, looks like he's doing Sheila 1, and then after he gets the Sand Ruby, might pick up that Cecil, but otherwise, I think he's going to head over to Baron Castle next.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, not only is it 2 key item checks, but it's also 2 more boss checks as well, which we have not seen any of our required bosses, and we're in the latter half of the number of boss locations that we're going to have available to us at this point, so you got to think any boss dense location is going to be extra important right now.
Okay, so the Luca Cave dream is dead, but we still have the Giant and the package, and actually the hook route for really rude locations for these boss hunts.
Oh, double hook route would be especially mean.
Oh, that would be awful, especially if the hook is somewhere far, far, far away.
These runners are going to watch this VOD back and they're going to hate us for describing these.
Yeah, there's actually 2 bosses on the hook route, but if you do the top of tower, you do get to see who the Rubicon spot is, so you can get that information. But the King Queen spot, the only way to know what boss is there is to kind of hike the entire way. It's kind of one of the last things you do on a boss hunt. By kind of, I mean it is basically the last thing you do on a boss hunt. Unless something puts you near there, kind of near the end of your seed.
Yeah, I think if we'd have started Hook, we might have hiked up to see the King Queen Eblin spot, just because those treasure chests in Eblin Cave are usually pretty good. Plus the character check there, you might as well see what it is. But at this point in time, there's no real reason to go up there. I've got to think that all 4 of our runners are pretty happy with the teams they have right now.
Yeah, and if you didn't have a Dwarfax, Rex finding a Dwarfax in the Baron weapon shop, and it kind of looks like all 4 of our runners have some way of anchoring their team, which is going to be really good for them going through the rest of the seed. Always nice to have just a good agility anchor setup. It's like I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to be concerned. It's good. It's fine.
Yeah, the only thing we haven't really found yet is the key items to actually get anywhere. We're really set up well for the seed. We're just not able to get anywhere in it yet.
Well, Baron's gonna have 2, like you said. Top of Tower's gonna have 1. One of those has to lead somewhere.
It does look like Tybalt has made the hike down Sealed Cave as well at this point, so going to be checking it that way instead of... I'm not sure if he didn't have Warp or might have missed it. It's one of those flags that I can imagine is very, very, very easy to miss. Although it does look like he did check it and is just checking the boss here.
He's just checking the boss. That's clever. It's one of those, like, I just want to put it out of my mind. I haven't seen any of my bosses. I know it's not here. Yeah, we see him resetting again, because when you go into Luca Cave, you try to set up one save outside and then one save inside. Though he warps back to Dwarf Castle, I hope his warp is not too far. It was only a couple minutes, it looked like, so I don't think he's lost any progress.
Yeah, I don't think
It
so
looks
either.
like he's
And
headed to Baron now. Yep.
when you have one of these races where I think we have something like, because we have runners off stream, we got something like 14, 15 people in this race at this point in time. And you've got to take some risks here and there. If that had been a boss, then that would have been a huge advantage. So you might as well take one here and there and hope it pays off.
Oh yeah, definitely. In a big community race like this, especially when, like, okay, it's a big community race. First of all, group racing kind of rewards gambling, like you said, and then also sometimes, like, I don't know, the stakes. What I love about community races is that besides maybe your pride, the stakes aren't really that high. So that also kind of lends me towards making a couple checks that I might not normally otherwise do. Now, maybe on the more fun end, that might be like, okay, if I get a twin harp, I'll do it a little bit earlier than I might otherwise, because it would be fun for me and for the viewers, like that kind of thing. And if you didn't already have a cursed ring, Baron, definitely making sure Rex has one.
Well, unfortunately, this king is not the best thing. Golbez taking the more direct route to the plot this time instead of letting someone else control Baron. So this is going to be a fun little timeout for everyone as they get to it.
Everyone's favorite stand-up comedian, Golbez.
It's that kind of stand-up comedian too that, you know, like, thinks he's really, really funny whether or not he actually is, and so just because of it, he's just like laughing at his own jokes the whole time, just kind of like, I'm waiting for the actual punchline here, but I'm guessing the dragon in this case is the punchline in some way that I just don't understand.
Right, except in this case, instead of like, oh my god, can you please get off the stage, it's like, can I kill you already? Now, Possum Able and Rex both being able to cast Venom on their party. The way that status effects work in this game, most of them can't be applied one after the other. There's sort of a priority system. You can apply a bunch at the same time, but Venom sort of overrides the paralyze that the dragon does. And oh, here's our 7th of 8 distinct characters. We have found an edge. And Possum says, goodbye, Rydia. You warped for us. You cast Syl for me early game. You've done admirable things for this team. Now, get out, please.
The only thing about that is, have we really seen that great of equipment for Edge? I know basically all I've seen that he can equip is a mute knife, so you're kind of at this point hoping that you find equipment for him, and maybe that's still better than having Iridia on your team at this point in time, this early on, where you're still got a lot of seed to go probably, but I gotta think there's a little bit of a risk to that, because there's no guarantee that you're gonna find that Edge equipment.
So he will not find Edge equipment. That is absolutely true. However, there is one very important thing about Edge on this flag set. We are on the S Pro setting. That means sirens are not available in shops. However, and neither are Bacchus wines. However, Edge can steal both of those. And I'm looking at the flags. It's E-toggle. There are no restrictions here. So the alerts in Lower Babel, Trap Chests, you can steal sirens from. And Mad Ogres in Castle Eblin, you can steal Bacchus wine from. So, I mean, that alone, probably worth picking Edge for. Also, Mute Knight isn't the worst weapon in the world. It doesn't have great accuracy, but it has good attack power. He will want another weapon, though. But, like, longsword mute weapon at Zeromus, it's not the best. It's kind of like taking an Ogre Axe in, but, I mean, you'll take it.
You want a Zeus gauntlet from Rydia's mom.
I mean, yeah, not really, but sure. Like, no?
It's Keyless Tower.
It is only Keyless Tower.
I can't believe that I forgot Dwarf Castle existed entirely and accidentally predicted Keyless Tower at this point.
So any runner that didn't go do Dwarf Castle at all will have an incredible reward and head up. I'm gonna guess most runners in this race are gonna do Dwarf Castle, but the one or two people that might fade it entirely will be heavily rewarded this seed. Baron Castle gave Edge, which is actually rather important though, a life staff and a Zeus gauntlet. Not progression. It's kind of character progression. And yeah, we're seeing silver dagger, mute knife, dancing dagger, and Edge. That it's kind of slim pickings.
Well, I mean, at very least, if you want to steal sirens, then you can do it now. But I kind of feel the flip side of that is I feel like sirens are not necessarily that important on this flag set. I don't want to say they're unimportant, but I'm not entirely sure if the time spent stealing sirens is going to be that much faster than doing a D machine grind, especially if there's a chance that you might need to go into that giant for a boss hunt.
So it would be slower than doing a D machine likely, but we've now seen 7 distinct characters. There's no way I'm counting on Atella showing up in this seed anymore. And the one black mage who could cast weak, Rydia, gets it so late at the level you're kind of supposed to get that spell that, I mean, it just doesn't help you do the grind anyways. So yeah, we see Possum doing trap chests here in lower Babel. Now, might actually just be looking for gear because he killed the one, though I think it was with Avenger. He might need to take the Avenger off because I'm pretty sure he's interested in, you steal maybe like 3 to 5 sirens and that just kind of, even just a couple of them will help kickstart your moon bosses, basically.
Yeah, and I definitely think with having booted Rydia off your team, there's a certain element of like your physical attackers scale more off of gear than off of levels, and your casters scale more off of levels than off of gear. So having a ton of grind done is not necessarily as important to someone like Possum, who is basically only has the Rosa left at this point.
Correct. And okay, it looks like he is taking trap chests just for the items because he's going in. So getting rewarded, finding a Masamune for Edge. Wow, that's huge. Edge's best weapon. Now, of course, he'd want 2 of them to be like best in slot, but just one, like a Masamune and a Mute Dagger are kind of like a defense sword equivalent in my mind. They're pretty good. But going in the trap chests and just letting the Avenger attack once, which again, kind of pay attention to how people lean on this Avenger here. Getting through the trap chest really quickly.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you can use to sort of multiply your power a bit, because another thing is that, for those who haven't watched too many of these streams too, Berserkers, they tend to put it simply, jump in front of the line of the queue pretty quickly and pretty often. So there's definitely an element too of that. And it looks like he's also using his knowledge of how many trap chests are here to take 3 of them and then take the Avenger off. So it looks like he might still steal sirens here, because I believe there's
that's what I would
4 trap
expect.
chests.
Yeah, even just a couple of sirens. I mean, you're already, especially if you're already doing this, basically, you might as well get a couple sirens for your trouble.
Yeah, and it's one of those real good applications of game knowledge, because while the chest that it's in is shuffled around, we know how many trap chests are in each location. And so because of that, if you haven't memorized, you know how many you can take before you have to say, okay, it's stealing time.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be glad he did this because I believe this is a Valvalis at the top of tower that Rex is fighting at the bottom left here. Val at this spot against physical attackers is kind of disgusting. She has a ton of physical evade multipliers. She's the only enemy in the game that gets physical evade multipliers. Like actually reasonably. Awkwardly enough, if they had kept the Rydia, this is one of the few spots in the game where Val in tornado form for some reason actually has 0 magic defense, so all magic works against her, but Edge with better gear will deal better damage, and if he has found any darts along his way, darts don't really care about Val's evasion. But this is not an easy fight. This is 20,000 HP worth of, well, this. As we see edge swing for like 170 damage.
Gotta be a little bit frustrating when you go through basically the entirety of the seed up to this point, and then you hit. I don't want to say this is the worst boss, but it's probably gotta be top 5 of the remaining ones up here very easily. So not a great prize. Definitely gonna be a bit of a wall for our runners here.
Yeah, this is one of the worst bosses possible to find here, and this is a pile of trash in Nyobari. I love it.
Yeah, what is this seed where it like started out completely vanilla and then turned into like this funnel that leads you into Keyless Tower? It's amazing. But also, what is this?
Also, I want to call out really quickly, Tybalt in the bottom right also stealing Sirens. Knocked down most of his party and casting Stop on Rydia. This just saves time, basically. You do have to spend some time up front knocking your party members down, but then you kind of just get to, sneak parry, sneak parry, sneak parry, sneak parry. It's good if you want more than a couple of Sirens to do this. But yeah, this is... should rename this the Tower of Ordeals.
Yep, for those of you who have enjoyed like Giant Percent on the ladder and like that, welcome to Tower Percent. That's what we're having today. And also I want to point out up on the upper right side, Jabrun being the first runner, I believe, to go down and check this Odin spot. Yep. So this will be an interesting part of that boss hunt. Might as well while you're right here.
Survey says... that's either Ruby or Elements. And it looks like it is Elements. Not interested in that today. Not interested in Ruby either, but kind of good to know which one it is. And chat pointing out that Tybalt did look at that boss and reset out. So the second of our runners, I believe, to check that out. No quarter leg for us today.
Nope, there's some hope for full leg later, depending on what's on the moon. But at this point in time, all that matters right here is this Val fight. Also, we do know now that it is Odin at that Rubicante spot up at the top of Tower of Babel. So that's one more boss location off the table, which I believe just leaves Cannon Room, basically any rabbit hole, and the moon, and King Queen Eblin.
And the package, and the giant, and Zot. There's a lot left, actually, as far as bosses go, but it's really going to depend on what the key items, Val has to give us progression. I mean, she just has to. There's no other choice. But the question is, what progression is it going to be? Personally, I'm hoping it's the Darkness Crystal. And that we have to do Darkness bosses to continue to make progress. I would also love if it was Tower Key, just for that kind of nice little troll. Vanilla Tower Key.
Yeah, if it's the Darkness Crystal, then this is like this is a funnel that this is like a little choke point, not a full-on funnel down one path. And with that Darkness Crystal, as we do see here, that means that this seed just went from really narrow to completely open again.
Oh, I'm so happy right now. Okay, so things just got really interesting because everyone's going to get funneled to the moon, and everyone has to do the moon. With this party, at these levels, the Sirens are going to help. Having Rosa, this is the part where now you're kind of grateful that you have this quality of a party, because Cecil enables cover strats, Rosa, critical, White Mage, Cure 4, Blink, that sort of thing, Berserk. So they're going to have to contend with the moon, and they're going to have to choose if they want to go top down or bottom up, and they're going to have to choose if they want to full clear the moon, or if they get a couple key items and want to dip. There are a lot of choices to make now, once we get to that moon, and see what the bosses are, and see what our 2 objectives are.
It's an interesting question, because I feel like if you're looking at it just from the objectives, that cave value first and then bottom up looks like the play, just from looking at that, unless I am confusing the Masamune and Murasame altars again, which is fully possible. But, if someone else goes and takes that top-down thing, that could be an interesting gamble. And as we've been talking about, there's plenty of room to gamble here. It's sort of, I don't want to say like low stakes to devalue this race any, but these community races are a bit more on the fun side, a bit more low pressure. It's a good time to take those risks. So you've got like the top down possibility, you've got the sort of Demarine play where you go and check the Crystal Sword altar first. There's plenty of options.
You could even pull a full Chaos, pull a Martin Broadcloak, pull kind of what Asuka's asking for, like a variant of the Gambit, and just go to the Giant immediately. Now, if you went to the Giant immediately, you would have to find a boss there that you're hunting, and of these 3 bosses, they would all be very gross to have to contend with up there. But if you found a way to get through, like maybe there's a freebie into Luge at the CPU spot, you'd get a ton of experience at an objective, which could be a huge payout. Like, don't discount the Giant play. I'd be surprised if anyone does it, but if they do, I'll be very happy.
I mean, risks win these big races, so
absolutely,
someone's got to go for it.
I know if it were me, though, I like to play I like to play very safe. I also like to call it very boring, but I would do the safe play of like either checking K value immediately or going all the way down to the bottom of the moon, kind of see who's at that Ogopogo altar, but otherwise just start taking on the moon fights. That would be the very traditional way to route.
Yeah, definitely. Also, Xenocat saying start with the objectives and then hit up Mirasame altar for no good reason. I like that. That's another great way of getting around this possible little bit of a snag that we've hit here where everyone might be just wanting to take the same route. Why not take something completely different? Why not bring back, like, you know, we had the World Championship of Darts wacky races like a week and a half ago. Bring some of that spirit back. Just use your dartboard to figure out which altar you're going to first and go for it, because at this point in time, any one of them is as good as the other ones.
By the way, I want to point out Jabron being very well rewarded for keeping that Rydia, able to cast Sylph against Val at the top of tower. Sylph able to just kind of take the role of a healer and damage dealer against Val. Gets through that rather quickly. Very well done for him.
I'm really interested in seeing what's at this cave value spot. It's a Yang.
That's free.
It's quote unquote free. As long as Cecil lives enough rounds for it to be free, it's free.
Yep, it's air quotes free. Now, what Rex can do here is, if he's worried about Cecil dying, but Cecil's got pretty good gear, it looks like. You could blink Cecil, but otherwise, the way this fight works, it's scripted. It's normally at Baron and 2. Normally, that spot has a lot of health for that point in time, but through Yang's script, after he's done a couple of actions, basically, when Cecil attacks him, he could even miss, which is hilarious. Yang will just go, ouch, and kind of end the fight. So wherever Yang ends up, that script is still alive.
Realistically, does this count as an 8th character in this seed, or are we still only sitting at 7?
It's an 8th antagonist, but unless Yang wants to show up to join our party somewhere. That kick doing 500 is kind of painful, but yeah, when Yang queues up, he'll swing one more time. Sorry, Edge. And then when he queues up the kick, he won't even end up kicking because of this Berserk status. Yeah, he just says, ouch. Because that kick, which he would have done next, was queued, and then the script kind of fires, gets through it. Unfortunately, Edge doesn't get the experience, but oh well. We have an objective done, finally. And a crystal ring is, okay. It's alright. It's a nice ring. Good agility. Good defense. It's pretty.
It's nice, I guess. It's the problem with K-Summon being off. It's these cave value plays, it's really only for the objective at this point.
He might have liked a weapon of any sort, but
If you want your Rosa to go faster, or anyone else to go faster, like if you're worried about your white mage not being able to keep up on the Z fight, then, you know, I believe the Crystal Ring is the one that has plus agility, if I remember it correctly.
It is. I mean, it's a really good ring. It's probably the best ring in the game, besides maybe Cursed Ring for what Cursed Ring can do for you. It is really good. Has defense against dragons, I want to say, or some other like elemental defense. Pretty good for that. Also just good stats on it. Rex getting our first look here, and Possum at our moon character. Probably a dupe, but I would laugh if this is Tella. It's another Cecil.
Well, that ain't nothing, unfortunately. Which leaves, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4 character spots left, and you're not taking any of them at this point. So these are definitely the parties are taking for the rest of the seed now.
Okay, now I hope that they go through the entire moon, get all their levels by doing that, get the Earth Crystal, end up having to do Zod, and that Zod has a Tella. Or on the Giant. That would just be the ultimate troll at this point. The one character, you know, everyone was kind of looking for to sort of enable, I'd say, like the easy mode of this seed. I will say though, from like a gameplay and like a viewer perspective, I am glad Tella didn't show up, just from the like, we kind of get to see people take on the moon at somewhat lower levels with gear that's not necessarily the best. We do still have an Avenger that's really good.
Yeah, and
really
I think
good anchoring.
We've got a lot of free bosses still on the table too. I think we've seen Dark Imps and we've seen Dolls. We've not seen, well, Dr. Luggage is effectively free at some places, but not necessarily on the moon. We haven't seen either set of guards, although actually I think we might have seen Baron guards, thinking back on it. It all feels like it's so long ago because it took us an hour into the seed to get our first objective.
Right. We've seen Water Hag too, but I don't think we've seen the Dark Imps. I don't think we've seen either the guards or the soldiers. If we saw one, we haven't seen the other. Yeah, Tracker saying that Baron guards were found. So the Kaipo soldiers are still out there. Some of our runners have that, if not all of them, have that hourglass from Fabul Gauntlet. That's kind of a get out of a freebie, one-time use. There are some rude bosses left too. I know we saw Ogopogo. Magus Sisters, depending where it is, could be kind of bad. Actually, Magus Sisters at the Ogopogo altar would be pretty awful. Rex getting our first look at the bottom left here at the Ribbon Room. Possum, in the meanwhile, taking a Warlock grind with the Mute spell that's basically free experience for him. Rex finding DKC at the Ribbon Room, resets immediately and says, I need to take this Avenger off, like yesterday.
That is quite literally and figuratively painful here, though, because I think this might be one of the spots that hits kind of hard. Yeah, that's spicy.
So the thing about the moon is that, yes, it actually all hits really hard. It's just sort of a, like, what flavor of hard hitting do you want? The Ribbon Room is sort of like the extra hot level of difficult, and the Wyvern spot and the Ogopogo altar are sort of like the atomic triple X, like the habanero level of spice. But it's all spice. It's all hot here. It's all painful. Everything punches hard here.
It's sort of like supermarket spicy things odd as opposed to specialty soft odd. We've got like flamin' hot Cecil here, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically.
I think that was the third hit. Nope, that was the second hit.
No, that's the second.
I think he might want to consider going somewhere else at this point in time, just because I'm not sure if there's really a way where you can sort of massage agility around to make this work right now.
If you have a Cure 3, if you have one Cure 3, you just need to get off 2 cures. I think you just need to get off 2 cures. So Rosa is going to cast a Cure 3 or 4 on the Cecil, and then if the Cecil can throw a Cure 3 at himself, or maybe even a Cure 2 if... I don't think a Cure 2 is enough, though. He's kind of waiting. We see him waiting in the menu. He's trying to time it so that DKC will swing. Yeah, unfortunately, the Cure 3 goes off. The timing on Cure 3 is tricky because it's not instant. We may see him try this a little bit more. The maybe smarter thing to do at this point, depending, is to get a little bit more experience so Rosa gets Cure 4. Cure 4 will make that a lot easier, because you could wait for the Dark Wave to start, to then cast the Cure 4 on Cecil, who's just the highest health party member, or Sid for that matter, but Sid's the anchor, so you can't really rely on him to act. But maybe you could Cure on him too. You throw a Cure 3 on Sid, you throw a potion at Sid. Yeah, I think the Dark Wave's gonna come out again. Yep.
I think you got to think a little bit in terms of where you want some of this experience to, because I think Rex Banner didn't sneak any sirens out of Tower of Zot, so he's kind of relying a little bit on the experience from this, and I feel like you don't really want that experience on your Sid necessarily out of everyone in this party too, so that might be playing a little bit into it.
Yeah, correct. Unfortunately, he's only going to have one party member standing, maybe two if you get to that party member's turn and can life somebody up. So if critically we could get basically Rosa and Cecil standing, that would be ideal. But yeah, this is where doing a grind is really going to pay off for Possum on the top left here, who is using all of his sirens to take on Warlocks. Warlocks are incredibly free with the mute spell or mute bells, because all they do is cast. When there's one Warlock standing, they punch, but with Kayn taking them out sort of one swing at a time, it's not really a concern.
Yeah, and really, honestly, I can get why you wouldn't want to grind here. We're sitting at a total of 7 key items for everyone, and you really want to get that double EXP from getting to 10. I just don't think that getting to 10 is in the cards. And also, shoutouts to Gale Swift in chat for those total of 6 subscriptions. So thank you very much for your support.
Yeah, Rex able to get through, finding the... Ooh, that's spicy. Finding a spoon, which is a good dart, and a twin harp. Twin harp might be required. Not gonna get music just yet here, but... Yeah, and waiting for 10k items is really unlikely. That's why Possum is doing a good number of Warlocks, I believe, here. I think Possum wants to get to endgame levels and then just blow up the moon. Not really counting on the fact that he'll get 10k items before doing that. Rex, on the other hand, is saying, I don't need that grind, I just need to get through the moon altar spots. Unfortunately, kind of tripped up a little bit on that DKC, but was able to kind of puzzle his way through it, and can kind of take on the rest of the moon now.
Yeah, I think the question to me is whether or not the time that ended up being lost just to getting through that Dark Knight Cecil fight, which, you know, it's no easy feat at that location, whether or not that's going to end up costing more than it would have taken to just go and do some other things in the meanwhile. It's difficult. And there's our first objective in the boss hunts.
We have found our Dr. Dialogue. I believe this is in the White Spear altar room. Probably the nicest place to find him. There are a lot of other bosses you'd rather see here, I think, because it has pretty low health compared to the other spots, but we're happy to see Lugia basically anywhere because it's an objective.
Yeah, when I try and think of like easy sort of leaning moon spots relatively, it's definitely this one and also the Crystal Sword altar where they have to tune down all the stats that you can actually beat Wyvern there. So it is a little bit of a nice thing to find one of your required bosses here.
Definitely. I mean, at the attack power level, that's like the Ghost Pepper of attack power. It's tied, I believe, for highest in the game. But the magic stat there is pathetic, and the health is pretty low too. So the Crystal Sword altar, often a spot, especially if you find a freebie that just has less health. Pretty good. And yeah, I think in this specific case, because the Ribbon Room altar did trip up Rex a little bit there, he essentially has lost the time compared to Possum and Tybalt here, who are taking a grind. Jabron also taking on this Dr. Dialogue. I don't recall if I saw him see the DKC first. He might have just gone in here first, take the Ribbon Room next. But that DKC is kind of demands either experience or understanding how to get through that like really, really well. Because we see how much easier it is for Possum, right? Like he just gets to sit on Rosa and cast Cure 4. And he's just going to be through this, and everyone's going to get experience.
Yeah, I mean, I like the play of going for that DKC spot that Rex went for. It's just
I do
that
too.
getting around that puzzle always will cost time,
Yeah.
and it's just not paid off. Tibble, on the other hand, I believe went down, did a grind, and is now heading over to that Cave Bahamut spot. So an interesting strategy there, wanting to get those levels before going for his bosses.
Yeah, I think this is going to play out a little bit more inefficiently for him than some of our other runners, but I certainly appreciate the just kind of wanting the safety of just being able to take down whatever the heck is here. Rex finding an adamant. We now have forge on the table. I'm reminding myself it is not supersmith, so that forge will reward an Excalibur when we end up back on Earth. Good Cecil weapon.
I think the question there is it's a good Cecil weapon, but on the off chance that we say find Baigen or Magus Sisters at one of these other spots, which is looking likely, how nice is it if you would have to go all the way back to Earth, all the way down to the underground without a pass and then have to walk back through? Because at the moment, I'm not even sure if that's going to be worth it.
Oh no, you don't at all. If you find all 4 objectives here, if you happen to find 2 bosses basically, and there's Leviathan at the Ogopogo altar, still no Magus Sisters or Baigen. Basically, if you have to leave the moon, then you can forge and you get an Excalibur for your trouble. If you don't have to leave the moon, I don't think you go back. Unless we happen to find a pass. If I found a pass, then I would leave, yes. But I'd still want to clear the moon first. Chat asking, is this French vanilla in a weird way? I mean, I guess this is like, Ogo is basically dark Leviathan, so is vanilla like the light version of like a vanilla bean, kind of? I don't know. Also, the Ice 2 here is brutal. Just want to point out that 1600 damage that got reflected.
Yeah, I mean, at least this is the easier one of the two danger
easier,
noodles
yes.
to find here. Yeah,
But really smart of Rex to put up walls like this, because Ice 2 would basically one-shot anyone on this party.
yeah, he's gonna take this fight down pretty easily. It looks like it's just a matter of the actual time it takes to chew through the health. So we'll see what the reward is for. At this point in time, I believe we only have the Crystal Sword altar and only have the Masamune or the Mirasame altar left. So we are running out of boss locations on the moon. If neither one of those is Baigen or the Magus Sisters, then this does not end in the moon, and we have to go back down and pick a location, which right now we've only seen Heart.
And with Earth Crystal, Tower Key, Pan, Hook, all looming out there, it's very, very likely that it's actually guaranteed that a chain continues from the moon to the Earth. But yeah, the question is the chain going to be necessary? And that really depends on the Crystal Sword altar now. I think we've seen everything else.
I guess it also depends on the key items,
has a boss. Well, if the Crystal Sword altar has Baigen or Magus Sisters, that's 4 objectives, and that's enough for a crystal. Because we've found Dr. Luge, and we'll be able to do Cave Value and the Masamune altar, which is the Leviathan we see right here.
We're kind of in waiting and suspense mode on what those other 2 bosses are at this point in time, and also what the key items are from it, because if you get, say, a package from it, I feel like you're incentivized to chase that heart. But do you chase that package because you don't think anyone else will?
Very well could. It's hard to say. I think I'm chasing chains first. Oh, and Baigen is found at the Crystal Sword altar. We are in go mode. This moon had literally everything. There's nothing else to do. Oh, sorry, Neo, but thank you. This is the Murasame altar. So this is actually really interesting. So here comes to me talking about doing top-down. The Murasame altar, when you go bottom-up, is the very last thing you do. Almost always, unless you just don't want to do the Crystal Sword altar. But it's really awkward to abandon the Crystal Sword altar because it's just kind of in between everything. But yeah, everything here is on the moon. Now, it's so interesting actually, this being the Murasame altar, if you were going to consider leaving to get an Excalibur, I mean, the Murasame altar is kind of the furthest up. That's really interesting now where we're at.
There's a question in the chat of, does Dart take defense into account or does it ignore defense? I do not know the answer to that one.
I'm not sure about the answer there either, but I do know that in this game, defense is almost always 0 or negligible, just the way it ended up being coded. The only spot that actually has meaningful physical defense is the King Ryu's that you can take a common grind at. The back King Ryu has meaningful defense. But I don't know if Dart kind of pierces defense or not. But in every other case, the defense stat just doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I know that in like later Final Fantasy games, like I'm more acquainted with like Final Fantasy VI mechanics in some ways.
Yeah.
I know throw there definitely ignores defense. So I would assume it's probably the same here. It'd be kind of weird if they suddenly made it not ignore defense anymore. So I would assume yes, but not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it does. It pierces evasion already. We know that because you can dart Valvalis in tornado form and still deal full damage, so. The damage on a dart is really just the power of the dart itself and Edge's level. That's it.
It's not appear
And
to use defense.
checking Accident. Thank you, Dishmoot. Checking Accident, who has disassembly for this game. Probably understands the mechanics the most, just from the coding perspective, and says that it doesn't appear to use defense, the throw command. So thank you very much for that answer.
Here's the interesting question to me. What if there's Magus Sisters at this Crystal Sword altar?
That would be hilarious. That would also put everybody into go mode at about the same time. At least in their own routing. But unfortunately it's a Pale Dim, and Possum just says, no, I'm not interested. I think he's gonna leave, yeah. Check the Murasame altar. Make sure that that's not a required boss. Gonna find the boss and then be in go mode, but otherwise, the plan here is to do the Mura altar, and if it's not there, probably, I don't know, probably leave. Though you'd only be leaving with a Twin Harp. I guess that's just theory at this point, though. We know that our runners are going to be in go mode.
Well, Rex has found that Earth Crystal. The only thing is, I don't believe he's gone to that Murasame altar yet. And the only question I have is, if you have Twin Harp and Earth Crystal, are you tempted to go chase those, or do you just fully commit to finishing this moon?
I still think you peek the Murasame altar unless you're really gambling hard that it's not there. And that's a pretty reasonable gamble to make. And I think that Rex took on that Pale Dim because it was his grind, essentially.
Back for it, so.
And it looks like Baigen rewarded the pass. That entire question I had about whether you leave to forge that Excalibur now, I think you definitely do at this point. Because you get to, and well, Tybalt is not interested in doing that. Doesn't have the Adamant reward yet. Still has more of this moon to clear. But with that pass in hand, I'm definitely leaving now. Getting that Excalibur, just making the Zerma's fight that much safer and faster. And then you could just take the Troyador. Do the Z fight.
Yeah, I think about the only way you might consider not doing that is if for some reason your last check, like the last thing you do here is that Masamune altar, and you just decide, all right, I just want to walk from here because it's really not that far and I'm not sure it will make up the time.
Yeah, if that wasn't I guess if you did the top-down play, yeah, you'd really kind of be pressed into a spot where, like, well, I could just walk from here. It's literally steps away. In chat asking if Possum has not done cave value yet. I am actually not sure. We'll find out if he dips from here or if he goes... He might just be doing cave value last because he took a grind. And kind of like Tybalt showed, if you're gonna take a grind, you want to do it first to make whatever's at cave value just safe when you go check it. So I'm guessing that's what's going to happen here. And the routing will have played out in his favor.
Yeah, and that's definitely what he's doing here. He's going to just go down to cave value. Definitely the last thing on his mind. I think in his case, 100% you go for that Excalibur. Like, there's no question at all, because he's in the unique position among everyone. If he's not even in the subterranean at this point, what's he got to lose from going?
Exactly, and with the Excalibur, that means that you can start the fight with an Excalibur on Cecil, glitch the Avenger onto it, and then give the Avenger to Kane, which is probably the best weapon he has, just flat out an Avenger. And then with, especially for Possum, the Masamune that he happened to spike in a lower Babel Trap chest, he's got 3 very powerful Berserkers. We'll have a really easy Z fight compared, I think, to the other runners.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Like, we thought this was going to be a 3-miss zone thing, and then it turned into all Berserkers, so it turned into, like, Lollyho Swiss instead, so it's been an interesting turn for today.
Yeah, and kind of the odd table flag from that flag set here or there did end up playing out like this, because Tele didn't show up in the seed, or the game rewarded you an Avenger or Forge. Though I want to say Vanilla Agility was on, which made sort of the Cecil Excalibur thing a little stickier, but it is not on tonight. Well, Vanilla Agility being where Cecil is always the agility anchor if he's in your party, which is a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not on tonight, thankfully, so no worries there. But Rex Banner is the first person to complete 4 objectives, which means he is the first on stream to get a crystal. Remember, there are still other runners that we have off stream at any moment. Any one of them could finish this race ahead of our current runners, but I gotta think at this point, we haven't seen one. These are pretty much your front runners for tonight.
Yeah, very possible other runners are in the same spot, so it could be more than these 4 kind of close to the finish. But Rex showing here the strength of not taking a grind at all, ending up ahead of Possum, who took the time to take a grind to make his moon safe. Rex saying, nope, I'm just going to go straight to the moon and take on at this party level. I just need to get 1 or 2 fights to get me that experience, and then took the Pale Dim Altar basically as his grind. The Crystal Sword Altar rewarding very good experience, and Rex is basically in the lead here of our restreamers. Of our restreamed runners, I mean.
Yeah,
now here's the important
hot
question.
on his heels, though.
Yep, here's the important question. Does Rex steal from the old man? No. Darn. There's an item in that bookshelf that people like to loot. Oh, is a Murasama you'd love to have, but, I mean, you're gonna sell the world for it? Do you even have enough? Do you even take the time to consider it? Rex is interested. Gonna scrounge up every last piece of lint in his couch. Do I have 90,000 gold?
I think you have 90,000 gold at this point in time, just if you sell literally everything, but well, maybe not. Oh, there's the cursed ring.
Awesome in the meanwhile saying, nah, I'm good. I don't need an X-Cal. I have a light sword. I've got the levels. I'm just going to go to Zeromus. With that Masamune on edge, it's a lot, I would say, safer for him to take on this kind of Z fight. Because one of the... Kane still gets an Avenger. Light sword is not the best, but it's not the worst weapon. And Masamune mute is actually pretty reasonable.
Well, I do want to say real quick as we're walking down to this Z fight, we have had a first place finisher as Beer Nerd has finished with a time of 1:26.47. So GG's to them.
Yeah, GG's to Beer Nerd. And I'm starting to see these Z flags, Z question marks in chat. Everyone's waving flags suddenly. What's going on?
I think we're all just happy to be here. But most importantly, I think there's like 600 some odd sprites at this point in time in the pool that we randomize in, because you can't move Zeromus anywhere. It's not fair if you move Zeromus anywhere. It's not fun if you move Zeromus anywhere. So that is going to lead to an important question that's going to be coming here in a couple of moments. up here on Possum Morpheus's side. And would you like to ask that question tonight?
Yeah, that question is, whose butt are we kicking tonight? Is it cute? I hope it's a cute butt. May it be the cutest of butts. Or the most horrifying. I kind of go either way.
Sit in the 500s and not the 600s. I've forgotten at this point in time. There's so many of them. All the artwork done a lot by Scala Kitty and one of our admins, as well as some by Boardface as well. So make sure that you're sending your love for all of the wonderful sprite work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The last number I remembered was something like 526, but I bet it's much higher than that by now. Scala confirming it's in the 500s. It's there are hundreds of Z sprites. That's the relevant piece. Unaleska. Is this creepy or cute?
It's taunting me because I've been playing through Final Fantasy X casually and I'm just about to hit this boss, so it's just telling me it should go finish that at some point in time.
The seed is speaking to you. It knows. There is no butt, notably. Butt is missing. I'm going to call this both cute and creepy at the same time.
Yeah, it can be both. I mean, I think the most important thing is that, you know, there is no zombie status in this game, so, you know, particularly scary boss here.
You and chat having the same thought at the same time about the no zombie status.
Exactly. I am sort of imagining Orin's speech, but I can't like remember it word for word, which is really disappointing because like I speedran 10 for a while. You would think I would have memorized it, but I've just tried to push those memories out of my brain. So
I have replayed 10 a number of times in my time on this planet, but it's been so long that I just remember so many things now. And we do have our second and third place finishers. Microkorgs finished second place at a time of 1 hour, 28 minutes, 44 seconds, and Dark Kobold finishing in third place with a time of 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 13 seconds. Get your GGs out in chat for those two. Very, very good runners, very good times here.
yeah, if you'd have told me that like sub 130 in this seed was going to be the play when we were at 1 hour and 2 minutes when we got our first objectives, I would not have believed you, but as always, the runners in our community impress me more than anything else, so GG's to all three of them who have finished so far.
Yeah, absolutely impressive, and that's what boss hunts do. 2 boss hunts ended up being on the moon, and we had 2 objectives, so we suddenly went from like nothing to, oh my god, go.
Just imagine what could have been from this, though.
I know, I'm sad. But I'm sure our runners are grateful to be able to not have to gamble between the package and the giant and the King Queen Evelyn spot. Though the Magus Sisters are out there somewhere. But yeah, this could have ended up far worse. And I think boss hunts kind of are a contentious thing amongst our community in general, but I think boss hunts could be really fun. And they lead to these kind of questions of like, you know, where do I go and what happens when suddenly there are no checks left and there's still bosses out there.
Yeah, I kind of think of it in terms of like Lollyho League Swiss, where, you know, I watched every single race that I could of that, and what I noticed is, you know, you have the swings from boss hunts, you have the swings from character hunts, but in the end, like, the cream sort of rises to the top there, no matter what, and the most skilled players will still win enough in our tournament formats to make it worth it. So it definitely, you know, it ends up playing out on average, but these fights are very stable fights that both of our runners on the Zeromus fights have here. It's basically just berserk everyone up and wait for it, as we are seeing rocks up here on Possum Morpheus' end.
Yeah, pretty safe. Rosa, especially for Possum having a ton of health, also probably why he didn't bother getting the Excalibur, because Rosa's very unlikely to die, and I think this might... Yeah, this is it. There's the crack. The flash not on, thankfully for us. Wonderful quality of life improvement, but get your GGs out in chat for Possum Morpheus. First on Restream to finish here. Finishing in 4th place overall with a time of 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 22 seconds.
We'll see if we can get him in for an interview. Speaking of which, hello, welcome, 4th place finisher Possum Morpheus. GG's on very well-run race tonight.
Thank you. GG's to everyone who finished ahead of me, to Beer Nerd, Microcords, and Dark Kobold as well.
Yeah, so I actually want to start somewhere near the middle. Once Dwarf Castle is done and you've got the reward from Baron and from Demist and
Air
that
quotes.
edge.
Air quotes reward.
Yeah, air quotes reward. How are you feeling at that point?
That if anyone did Keyless Tower early or earlier, that I was on the outside looking in. I didn't particularly like the check. I almost did Dwarf even sooner than I did. I'm glad I didn't. But it was one of those where, what a funnel that was, and oh boy, Val up there is great. Let me tell you.
Now, how happy were you to find Edge?
I mean, it gave me a means to the end, if you will. So I knew that with Rosa, with the curse ring I had purchased, there was not going to be a problem getting everyone anchored and doing warlocks. It really gave me the ability to do what I needed to do and get through the moon quickly. Obviously, everything was going to be moon gated. There was nothing left to do on the Earth. So I wanted a little bit of, an extra ability to get through things quickly on the moon, even if it took a little time to grind. And Edge really facilitated that. I was quite pleased to see him.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Edge, even without the good weaponry, able to sort of enable that sort of strategy. And just real quick, we see Z falling for Rex Banner as well. So GG's for Rex, finishing in 7th place at a time of 1 hour, 34 minutes, and 33 seconds.
GG's Rex.
So I want to sort of rewind a little bit further than that too, where you saw the Cecil on Mount Hobbs and just immediately reset out. What was your thought process at that point in time?
I had no way of getting through Kainatsu that was going to be any bit remotely quick. Maybe I could have hit him with a blizzard from Sid, but I'm staring at a party with no AoE, and that blizzard may come in handy for something else. So knowing also that it's distinct 8, there's a decent chance I'll see another one of them somewhere. Happened to be he was at the Sand Ruby, which is great. Eventually I'd have gone back for him up on Hobbs, but it was just a matter of I didn't have a good way to kill, so to get Cecil to do anything with him and to leave my party in good shape after.
Yeah, and that's essentially how Nth pointed it out to finding Cecil at Sand Ruby, so kind of well done there. My final question for you, at least for me, is a twofold question. One is about taking the Warlocks before doing the Moon, and then the second is about not forging before going to Z. So kind of walk us through what's on your mind there. What was on your mind there?
I'll answer in reverse order. Not
Sure.
forging. I didn't think that the time it would take to go through the cutscenes, grab. I think it's regular Excal on this. I don't think that would have brought me back time-wise enough to make up for the time it would take to fly underground, go through the cutscene, forge the weapon, check the shop, because if I'm down there, I'm going to check the shop too. I just don't think I get the time back, even as good as Excal is. Yes, I probably skip a second Big Bang, but didn't really matter with this team. The second Big Bang cutscene is, what, 8 seconds? A Meteo and that little phase in is, what, another 10 to 12? It takes more than 20 seconds to get through forging. That was kind of how I looked at it. And as far as Warlocks doing them immediately, I just knew based on the bosses that were left, if Baigen is up there, that's gross. If Magus Sisters is up there, that's potentially gross.
Yeah.
And whatever could be at the Ogo spot, I hate the Ogo spot. And there's a lot of gross things that could be there, and Leviathan is actually one of them, as it very much so disliked my Edge, who got revenge by throwing the spoon. Yeah, it was just one of those, I would rather have the power to deal with things the first time than have to take them on, get it done slowly, or have to go back and grind. So that was the reason for the warlocks first.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I asked that because I think you'll want to go back and watch the last half of this because it's very interesting. Between you and Rex, you chose different routes through that moon. Rex did not take a grind first, was actually first out of the moon with crystal in hand, but also Rex chose to forge and didn't have the masa that you had. And I want to say that was the time difference that gave you 4th instead of 7th. So really interesting.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the times are so close, given the pathing that everyone was forced through. Because even if you go up Keyless Tower early on, Val is going to stymie a lot of folks. So it just seems like one of those where everyone's going to get really funneled into that check, and it's just a matter of who got there quickest and then who got out of the moon quickest. So kudos to Rex for getting out of the moon first. I know he loves his low-level moon dives and showing off for everybody. Rex is a great friend of mine, so I'm glad to see him do well as well on Restream.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so that's kind of it for me for questions. Do you have anything else, Enth?
No, the Excalibur one was actually the last one I had. So again, GG's on a very well-run race, and good job on your 4th place tonight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Did anyone get to do music? Otherwise, I can go take a gander at it for y'all.
No, we've not heard music, so.
Okay. We'll go ahead and take care of that. Thank you, Enth
Awesome.
and Solaris for comms. Thank you, I think, Neobari for Restream, and is it Asuka tracking tonight?
Yep.
Well, thank you all 4 of y'all. It's always a blast, and everyone have a great night.
Yeah, thanks so much. You too, Possum.
And we're about to hop into our next interview with Rex Banner, our 7th place finisher tonight, who has joined us. I just want to give a quick rundown of other finishers we've had while we were talking with Possum. We've had Sentient Flatbread in 5th place with a time of 1:33.05. Roger McBain in 6th with a time of 1:34.16. Twisted Flax in 8th with a time of 1:39.08. And Pyre in 9th with a time of 1:39.29. But we are joined by Rex Banner, our 7th place finisher tonight. GG's on your race.
Thank you, folks. GG's to the other racers. That was a fun seed.
Yeah, GG's, Rex. I want to walk us towards actually the end of the seed for you. Near the end, getting to the moon. What's on your mind as far as, like, you've got Edge in your team, Sirens are kind of on the table, maybe we could just go to the moon. Like, kind of what was on your mindset, like, once the Darkness Crystal was in your hand?
Basically, I heard Possum hit it on the head. I like early moon dive, so once the Darkness Crystal was in my hand, I was happy to start head to the moon and start checking out what fights were possible with the team I had. And just sort of get that quick early jump, and like if they're not too bad, you can gain that little extra experience.
Yeah, and I think that played out actually pretty well for you. I know that the DKC kind of took a few tries to puzzle through that, but you were first on Restream to kind of step out of the moon with the crystal in hand by not taking a grind immediately. So really just interesting to show kind of different routes through this seed.
I'm actually surprised I was the first one out of the moon with the crystal in hand. I felt a little behind after that DKC, the alt gauntlet. I should have just ran away from it, but the other day I was doing a race and I skipped it, and it turned out I had to go back and do it because my item was hidden behind it. So today I just like, oh, okay, let's do this. And without having any type of AoE, I wasted so much time.
Yeah, and I do want to say that DKC fight was very interesting for me to watch, in terms of figuring out how you were sort of moving the pieces of your party around to figure it out. What was going through your head during that sort of process? Like, did you know that if you just got that sort of right setup that it would be able to coast through? Or were you just sort of like trying things and hoping you hit on the right thing? What was the sort of process there?
I've done that fight lots. I know the setup well, and that was just one of those things. I was trying to rush too much because I was feeling behind, and I didn't stop and just set my party up. I knew I needed Rosa to go first to heal Cecil. Once it got to Cecil's turn, I needed to use the Cure 3. The problem being is Gear 3 is a slow cast time, so you actually got to queue it up before the Dark Knight attacks, and just trying to get that timing was really messing with me. I normally have a better idea of it, but tonight, feeling behind, I was trying to rush and I wasn't quite just slowing down and thinking until finally that last attempt, I just slowed down and did it proper.
But you did nail it on that last try, and I think I was also really interested in watching that. It's really fun to watch kind of how to go through those kind of fights. Like you learn something out of it too, and also I don't know, it's very entertaining to watch. So I just wanted to thank you for that moment. I think it was really, really, really fun to watch.
Oh,
I was gonna say I think that's it for me for questions though. Do you have any others, Nth?
No, that was about it. Just again, GG's, and thank you for that sort of demo of how to get through a tough DKC fight as well. I know I learned a lot from watching it, so it was very impressive to see.
Alrighty, well, thank you, folks. I'd like to also thank you guys for the commentary. That's awesome. Thanks to Neil Bari for the restream. Thanks to Oscar for pushing the buttons and keeping them away from Possum. Although she could have gave him a few more to slow him down a bit, but thank you, folks, for everything. GG's to all the other racers, and hope you folks have yourselves a good evening.
Thanks so much, Rex. You too. Bye now.
And so with that, we've had a few more finishers during that interview. In 10th place, we've had Sorbius with a 1:40.56. In 12th place, we've had Harump with a 1:43.37. But in 11th place, we are joined by Tybalt with a time of 1:41.15. GG's on your race tonight.
GG's.
So yeah, just kind of tell us how you were feeling about that seat overall.
Well, when I saw Edge, I'm like, I have no gear. I just ditched the boomerang that I had. And then I decided to look at the flags again. It's like, oh, wait, I can steal sirens. Cool. There's my grind option, because I had already thought of possibly doing a D-Machine grind, but I did no guarantee of sirens, no guarantee of tele, so it's kind of like in the mix of between both. And I saw the Edge, I'm like, no gear was my first thought. And then, wait a minute. Dealing.
Yeah, I definitely smart to do so. Pretty much, I think everyone on Restream took Edge, and only one didn't end up stealing Sirens. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. How are you feeling once you got to the moon?
I was feeling actually quite behind, considering how long Val took.
Oh yeah. It's not a fun fight.
No, I'm just sitting there, I was like, you know what? I've already got 3 people zerked. I saved at the bottom of the tower. I'm just gonna deal with it.
Do you think there's something you could have done differently to speed up that fight?
I mean, I probably could have not had the Avenger on Kane and try to take her out of her spin, but I don't know if I would have been able to take the physical punches from her at that spot.
I see. Yeah, there's a high evade at that spot physically. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, or actually not have Rydia Kirsten start using Sylph not in the center slot would have also been another option too.
Yeah, one of our restreamed runners showed Sylph that spot has no magical defense, weirdly enough. So Sylph was pretty useful. Also, I think pretty good to identify that was an option.
So one thing I want to ask, you ended up going down the sealed cave before heading over to Dwarf Castle. Take us through the thought process on that.
So when I have the warp glitch on and I have the Luca key, I wanted to grab the item, but when you're on a triple boss hunt, you do the warp glitch, you're going to forget about that boss. And so I went down there going, okay, at least I can see this boss, and if it's required, cool. If not, I can leave it. I saw Wyvern there, I went, nope, sayonara, you can stay there.
And if that had been one of the bosses you needed, it would have been a pretty big advantage for you. You were the only one who, you were one of 2 who checked. One of our restream runners did also do Luca Cave, but didn't warp glitch, so actually got the Baron key from that.
Yeah,
so that would have played out pretty well for you.
Sadly enough, I had a little bit of flashbacks when I saw that Wyvern there.
At least it cast Mega Nuke, and you didn't need to deal with it?
Oh no, Oh, it casts Mega Nuke for the flashback too. In Warp Zima Zone tournament.
Ah, I see. I must have missed those.
I didn't warp glitch, and the item there was required. Funny enough, it was also Baron Key.
Gated by Wyvern?
Yep.
That's hilarious.
And I lost 10 minutes to a reset.
Oh, that's painful. Well, at least this time it wasn't that case.
Yeah,
And
I've learned my lesson.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's big, right? Like, we go through these races, we learn lessons from our mistakes in the past, and they help us out, as demonstrated here. But I think that's it for me for questions. Nth, do you have any others?
No, it was really just the sealed cave one. I was a bit curious about. GG's on a well-run race, and yeah, again, very well. Thank you for sharing that thought process on it, because I was thinking about that the whole time. Like, this must have a strategy behind it. So it's nice to actually hear the thought process there. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
definitely.
problem.
Any final thoughts?
No. Thanks for the the restream and the bosses. Why did it have to be those 3 specific bosses that have multiple enemies?
We were hoping for worse, I'll admit. We were hoping they were on the giant.
Oh, I had thought about the giants. Like, if Tella was in the seed, I would have gone to the giant and would have done the giant bosses. No joke.
Yep. Anyways, what was I gonna say? I completely lost my train of thought. Never mind.
Thanks for the commentary, the restream, and the tracking. Y'all do a wonderful show. Hope to see the watch back of the VOD as to hear you guys' input, so I can learn even more.
Yep. And thanks so much for volunteering for restream and putting on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right, now while Jabron unfortunately having some difficulty with this Z fight, really feeling that he needs experience is my main kind of what I'm thinking here. Especially watching him stealing sirens, and I think he's back to steal sirens here. But while we're watching Jabron kind of get through the rest of the seed and cheer him on, I do want to ask that folks stick around because there is an announcement coming at the end of this race. Might want to stick around for that.
Yep, it is going to be a very, very exciting, very hype moment. So make sure that you do stick around with us. And also make sure, once again, that you give our runners a follow, as well as our Restream team. Again, thank you to the behind-the-scenes half of the Restream team, Niabari on the actual Restream, and Asuka for tracking. And also, again, to add on to the shout-outs to Asuka, thank you for your work on the Pink Puff League as well. This flag set is adapted from one of the Pink Puff League flag sets, and it has offered great amounts of entertainment. So thank you for that, in addition to the work tonight.
Absolutely, and I love what Asuka chose to do, which was to sort of reach out to different community members to help shape the flag sets, and this one is a Baka Shinobi special, particularly helped shape the flags in this flag set, and he's also the one that retweaked this for our more difficult version of it to have a community grace on. So just knowing who to lean on to kind of get like different kind of flags, and I mean I think the Pink Puff is just such a big success in general, and I love the variety of challenges that it's offered so far.
Yeah, and I think that, I watched a lot of Lollyho League races, and I watched a lot of Zima Zone 3 races too, and you can see the skill gap lowering, and just having another way of getting newer runners in, helping learn, helping teach is just going to be such a huge thing going forward for just the competitive scene in general, because, now we're giving even more tools to keep those close races coming.
Yeah, definitely. As the community grows, and really in any competitive community, as the community grows, people gain more skill, they gain more knowledge, and the skill gap, at least, kind of towards the middle top, starts to close in on each other. And especially as our community is growing, we're seeing more and more people kind of come in and show their skill, or just their interest in playing in general. to play this game, I mean, you don't need to be the top of the top. I mean, you could just play, not time yourself, talk to NPCs, and have fun. The way that you choose to engage with this randomizer, there are so many different ways and options. I truly, truly love this randomizer.
Yep, and if you are watching and you want to give it a try for yourself, make sure you head to our website, FF4FE.com, to give it a spin for yourself. And, you know, there's all sorts of different flag set presets you can try on the site. There's nice, easy, casual ones all the way up to why am I doing this to myself level ones. And also make sure you join our Discord. We've got a very friendly, loving, welcoming community that I know I'm personally proud to be a part of. And, you know, come join us. Add to it.
Yeah, I love this community. I think everyone's super helpful. In our Discord, there's a newbies corner chat that is very active. People are always talking there about, you know, asking questions, trying to get help. I know for me, when I join a new Discord, I'm kind of shy initially, so I would just search in there at first to kind of find the answers that I needed, because there's so much history in that channel and in Discord in general. And yeah, and if you are interested in playing and you are on the newer side and not really sure what flag set to play, another thing you could do is come into our Discord and see the previous Pink Puff League, like week 1, week 2, week 3. Those are pretty good to start with as well as just the beginner flag set, beginner and intermediate in the make page on FF4FE.com. Lots of really good options there.
Yep, we are seeing that Jbrun has hit this little sort of peninsula of power here on the underworld, where he's going to break a few eggs, get those last few levels that he needs. He shouldn't need more than 1 or 2 more eggs before he's pretty much completely safe for that Z fight. Really only needs a little bit more HP on maybe Rosa. I'm not sure if Rosa had Cure 4 or has Cure 4 at this point too. I think maybe 1 or 2 more eggs for that, and then he'll be good to go.
She gets it pretty early, but I'm not sure at the 1500 hit point mark. We'll kind of see here. But yeah, critically, Rosa needs more health, more levels. That's the main problem on this team right now. 1600 health, and he had her at much less health beforehand. Unfortunately, it just not really a lot. I'd have to really go back and watch, but I could guess that sometimes when you dive the moon and board face AI just really doesn't like your white mage, that's how you end up not getting levels. And it ends up being one of those frustrating things. It's like, oh, well, that wasn't exactly my fault, but here I am. Yeah, Rosa got Cure 4 now, has 1800 hit points. Might go up to like 2000 just to make this really safe as possible. May even burn through all the sirens he has just to guarantee to get through it. But we're pretty close to getting back to Z now.
Yeah, and, you know, it's possible to live through big bangs at the health that Rosa had before, but lacking Cure 4 was a huge deal. And also, there's a sort of way around. You have to actually make those big bangs hit for less. So if you queue up an action at the right time, basically right after a shake, when Zeromus does little shaking things, it will basically lower the spell power of the upcoming big bang. That's a sort of really rough way of putting it. And so because of that, you could, you know, get through that. But if you're at around 2000 health, then he no longer has to worry about that. If he wants to just brute force the rest of this, you might as well at this point.
Yeah, and Jbrun is really good at these kind of low-level strats. I've seen him do what we call Fu and Friends rather frequently. I think he loves those kind of strategies, but Zeroma's just not playing nice to him today. Chat asking, is there an announcement? Yes, there will be an announcement at the end of this broadcast. Definitely stick around. Jbrun, really near at the end of his grind here, that's his last siren, will be going to Zeromus. This party, I imagine, won't have problems anymore at that point. At the end of this, after we interview Jbrun, we will have an announcement through voice, so definitely stick around for that. You don't want to miss it.
Yep, and with that, it looks like Jbrun is taking back off, heading back up to Troya to land to head back to that Zeromus fight. So we'll be back in it soon. I gotta imagine at this point in time, you got 2000 health on everyone. You've got that Cecil with an Avenger. This is going to be a pretty smooth sailing from here.
Yeah, the only thing that could go wrong is that Zeromus could high roll his Big Bang, meaning that there's a range of damage that Big Bang can do, and Rosa at 2200 health is rather safe, but she could still take like a 2300 to 2500 Big Bang and kind of give you a bad day, and that's sort of RNG, but she's most likely to survive. And that's really the main thing, is if she can survive. And even if she doesn't survive, if, Sid having so much health will survive Big Bangs, can pick Rosa up, and then she can get the cure off. So there are ways to get through even if the White Mage goes down.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, is like, while Zeromus is definitely the hardest boss in this game, he's also in some ways doesn't really do a lot. He kind of just sits there, casts Big Bang, occasionally throws a spell out, and then eventually throws rocks at you. And so because of that, it's kind of becomes this pattern of like building up to a Big Bang, recovering from it so that you're ready for the next one. And just having that extra health on everyone, it sort of like creates extra insurance and extra safety, because you do have plenty of time to pick someone back up and get that party back rolling.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to compare this to like raid bosses in an MMO, Zeromus is like a DPS check and a health check, basically. If you have enough health and or enough DPS to get through the fight, that's all you need. And because it's Final Fantasy IV, you also need good agility anchoring or a setup that kind of works, which is pretty special to FF4, but it is essentially, you're checking the boxes. Do I have like two of these three checked? Okay, good. Then I'll probably have a pretty good Zeromus.
I just want to take a moment out that you made the MMO comparison, because in chat, and Dodo is saying, I hope the announcement will be for the new expansion Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Walker. And that is a top tier joke, and I need to make sure this gets said out loud so that it's memorialized for YouTube later on down the line. So again, shout outs for that wonderful piece of comedy that I've been sitting here giggling about for like a few seconds.
Thank you for pointing that out, because I missed it. FF14. Are you an FF14 player, Nth?
I am. I've been playing since ARR, so basically since it got relaunched in 2.0. So a lot of time spent on that game. I used the P-time command once and it scared me. So I don't remember how long, but that's about it.
I have played it in the past. I played so much Final Fantasy XI, which is the older MMO. When I ran the play time command in that game, I remember thinking it might as well just say this in years, which is really scary. So I'm sort of past my MMO days, but I have played some 14. It is really fun. Also the glamours. The glamours are everything. Kind of setting up your character to look really good. I kind of really love that part. Yep.
11, I did play 11 a little bit in the later years too, so I have a little bit of background in there. So what we need to do is we need to wait until that gets wait down the line when they eventually make like a remastered single player 11, and then like 20-30 years from now we'll have like Final Fantasy 11 open world randomizer, and then we can get to the real interesting moments there.
Oh my god, I don't even want to think about a Final Fantasy XI randomizer. Final Fantasy XI is basically EverQuest, and neither of those games are very kind. so an open rando version hurts my brain.
You want everything to be Cactrot Rapido? Because that's what I want.
Please no. Yeah, Final Fantasy XI was, when I was in high school, we played a game called Ragnarok Online, which I think people still actually play. And then that group I played with moved on to Final Fantasy XI, and I played with them for years. I mean, like actual years, probably like 5 or 6. I finally hit a point where I was like, I think I could probably not play MMOs anymore. And that was kind of it. But really, 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 really fond memories from my time playing that game. It was so difficult that it kind of brought people together, because you had to do everything in groups. I could wax poetic on that game for a while. I will not do that.
When are we gonna get the Play Online login theme harp music, if it doesn't already exist? And also, if we get that, it needs to be like about 20 decibels louder than you expect it to be to get the true Play Online login experience.
I love that suggestion. It has to happen now. Oh my god. I've never thought of that. Play Online being the client that you use to log into Final Fantasy XI. They wanted it to be for more games, but it really only ended up being for that and, like, I think Tetramaster. One of the 2 card games. I think it was Tetramaster.
Yeah, I think it was also part of the strategy guide for Final Fantasy IX, but we do have rocks up on Jabrun's side, so is going to get through this fight at this point in time. Just needs to get this last bit of health down, so going to be done very, very soon here.
Yep. Everyone's super healthy. Even if Rosa gets knocked down, I mean, you could literally just hold A, but Cecil's got the Crystal Sword Avenger thing going on. There's the crack in the flash, and Jbrun is through the Z fight. Get your GGs out for Jbrun.
Yeah, had a little bit of a rough finish there, but a very well run race by him. Getting to that finish line, as always, persevering, and it looks like he is declining the interview. Apparently his dogs need to go out, which, you know, very, very important. So I believe we'll be joined very, very shortly by Scala Kitty for that announcement. Speaking of which, hello.
And hello, Scala. I think if you are talking Scala, it is not coming through Discord.
Oh no, you gave away the surprise.
I am also surprised. Hi.
Hi. Hi and hello, everyone. If you know that, did you all say that Jbrun will be not doing an interview?
Yeah, Jbrun has declined the interview. Yeah.
Yes, great. So we can get to the,
So
we can get to the fun.
Yep.
So hi everyone. I think everyone kind of knows what this is going to be. We are very, very excited to announce the return of Highway to the Zenith Zone. We are going to be back on the road this August, within just a few weeks, actually. So let me kind of read out our little announcement. So we're going to get back on the road. We are happy to announce the 4th iteration of Highway to the Zenith Zone will be kicking off this August, specifically on August 15th. This tournament will feature a single flag set, actually, designed with some very interesting challenges, such as Sea Hero. We're going to bring in from the beta version the random gated quests. We're going to have boss hunts on for your objectives, and finally, we have 3 signature static objectives. We are going to, of course, have the wonderful return of Forge. We're going to have Cave Bahamut as a static objective, so you can always find value on the moon. And this is my one single suggestion that I got into the flag set, so everyone is allowed to blame Scala for this one. You have a boss hunt, and it's Witchburn Wyvern. So I hope everyone is going to be looking forward to that. I will post the full flag set in the chat for everyone. Just to let folks know, due to the growing size of the community, we are actually going to be doing qualifier races for this tournament. Sort of a throwback to the original Zenith Zone 1 and Zenith Zone 2. And then from those qualifier races, we are going to take our top 64 runners, and they are going to face off in an absolutely massive bracket. And that bracket will be drafted by our top 16. So it's going to probably be a whole heck of a lot of fun. As I stated earlier, qualifier races will be starting on August 15th. We will have 15 different races over the course of a 3-week period. You have to play in 4 of those qualifier races to qualify for bracket consideration. But one thing that we are going to be doing this time around is we are going to allow signups while the qualifier races are happening. So if you see the tournament getting started, you find that you get interested, you want to come and play the flag set, you can hop in anywhere up to basically the last week of qualifiers and join in if you want to. We are hoping to be having a prospectus stream to kind of go over the flags, the little ins and outs of them, why the admins picked one thing over the other. And we really, really hope that folks will enjoy and will come out and race. Even if you think that you might not be able to qualify for brackets, please come and play some of the qualifier races. They're going to be hosted like our community races. They are going to be open for anyone who would like to sign up. and just come and get like some of the wonderful tournament experience that we have. And I will also be sure to be putting this in our YouTube info in chat right now on Twitch. You can now find the link to the rules doc, to the sign up sheet. That is all going to be tweeted out. It's also going to be posted in Discord basically as soon as this stream is wrapped up. I really want to thank Ethan Solaris for letting me come in here at the end, do this announcement. We are super duper excited for this tournament. We think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it will be an interesting challenge for everyone. And we're so happy we get to show off some of the beta changes that we've made and ways that we think will really make the game and the meta super interesting for this tournament. How are you all feeling about it?
I just really like Sea Hero. That's all I'm excited for. The rest is amazing, but Sea Hero. I love Sea Hero.
I'm really hyped for it. I'm interested that it's one flag set, so instead of having a Swiss and bracket kind of way of doing it, where one is kind of a kinder flag set and one is a more difficult flag set, it's just sort of one set thing, you know what you're getting the whole way through. And qualifiers, I believe, are going to be brand new for us, right? I know we've done 4-player races.
We did qualifier
Maybe
races in
originally?
ZZ1 and ZZ2
Yeah.
because those would then organize into like round robin style. But this is something where like our community is really growing. Oh yes, and Moonblaze Wolf points out World Series of Free Enterprise also had qualifier races. So this is something that we had kind of moved away from, but now with the size of our community, we felt that this was the best way to make it so that way if you want to come jump in, throw your hat into the ring, see if you can make your splash, you have that opportunity. And we have a lot of opportunities once we actually get the qualifiers going. Like I said, it's going to be 5 a week over the course of 3 weeks. You'll be having them on our normal Monday nights and Friday nights for community races, and then also on the weekends. And on the weekend ones, we are actually going to be doing them staggered at different times, so that we can hopefully make it so that way people from a wide variety of time zones are able to join in and hopefully be able to come in and participate. And the other thing is that also there is no maximum on the amount of qualifiers you can race. If you want to race all 15 qualifiers, you are welcome to do so. Absolutely. And we hope that this will sort of be like a really fun way to come and join in on the tournament and make it really fun for everyone. I will say, in addition to the when we're talking about like the flags, in addition to the Witchburn Wyvern hunt that I sort of advocated for, I also very much like we have something new from the beta, which is Start Any. So it means that any character can be in the starting pool. So starting pool and now character pools for the whole seed are now separate. So we have Start Any, but no Fusoya. So you can have a Fusoya hero, but you can't find him out in the field, which I think puts a really interesting spin on things. So Fu is what we're calling semi-retired for this tournament instead of completely on vacation.
Yeah, from first of all, I just dated myself in sort of the opposite way because I am from 3 Mist till now is kind of when I've been here. So everything before that is stuff I've missed. So qualifier is brand new for me at least, and the gated quests and the starting pool, like you named out, and that Witchburn is also safe in a way that like you're not going to get Meteo or Big Bang. I don't know the full list, but those two particularly, it can be really nasty. So like all those changes, and there's a tier 8 now that we have in our beta, right, for the Holy Swords, basically. Yes. All of that's going to play out, I think, really interestingly. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, thank you for this tiny like mini prospectus on the tournament. I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, that's where my brain went as far as kind of how I feel about it. Yeah.
Mine's still stuck on Sea Hero.
Sea Hero.
Yeah.
We are looking forward to what Sea Hero is going to do to shake up the meta. Also with some of the tier changes that we've done. I will say, people who are fans of Rydia, it's going to be some time for Rydia to shine a little bit.
Yeah, but not to steal the thunder of going with everything with the flags. I think it'll be fun, and Sea Hero is one of those things I think that the ladder has introduced really well. as far as like what Sea Hero is and what you can do with it. So, and from an experience perspective of like, I'm not that familiar with Sea Hero, you can play the ladder flags, or any other like Sea Hero variant, right? Still kind of get experience there. So yeah, it sounds like it'll be a lot of fun.
Yes, and we will be for the season 3 of the Free Enterprise ladder. We will be having this as one of the flag sets in rotation, so you will be able to also go and get your practice in that way, basically like every day.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my goodness! Very quickly before we go, thank you, Fandangelo, for the gift subs. That's my brother.
Aww,
So
that's awesome.
thank you for the support. Much love. But I do believe we need to carry this love on and forward, don't we?
Yeah, we're going to be heading over to Dr. Cossack. He is playing some Pink Puff practice, a 2v2 practice with Arusta. So definitely stick around for that. No spoilers, as always. But yeah, I think that'll be a really interesting one to kind of go see. But that's it for us. That's it for me.
And that's it for me as well. Good night, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Good night, all. Look forward to the tournament.